This is Seth David, your Dean of Beans with schoolofbookkeeping.com, talking about what's going on at Xero this week, now playing Quotes in Xero. Quotes, also known as estimates. It's an integral part of the sales process, and it's now available in Xero. Your customers and prospects may want you to send them a quote for Xero. Of course, you're probably not going to do that, but it might be comforting to know that you can now do a quote in Xero, as in the accounting software. My first question, of course, when I got the news from the email that was sent to me by Jamie Sutherland was, where do I go to do this? Very easy question to answer. Come over here to Accounts and go to Sales. And once here, you're going to want to create a new quote. Now, as you can see, I've already created a few, playing around with the feature. And notice what it does. And we talked about this in the write-up, that it shows you workflow. I can see that I've got one quote in draft mode. I've got another quote that's been sent, waiting to be accepted. When the recipient accepts this, assuming he does, then it'll go here into accepted. And you'll also see in a minute that you can set an expiration date, or an expiry, as they call it down in New Zealand, so that you can see if it's expired, meaning the prospect had until such and such a time to accept the quote. Beyond that, we'll no longer honor whatever offer we were making. And of course, let's face it, reality is if the customer prospect comes back a week beyond the expiry date and asks us to honor it, I'm sure we will, unless we just have an allergy to new business. So over here next to new, use the drop down, don't click on the new button, because clicking the new button will actually launch a new invoice. You can choose to create a new quote. Now, if you've ever filled out a sales form before, if you've ever filled out an invoice, if you've filled out quotes or estimates in any other accounting software, I don't think you're going to have any trouble at all figuring out how to do a quote in Xero. It's pretty simple and straightforward. So let's say I'm sending a quote to Ian Vason. And we'll put in today's date. By the way, new trick I learned. You can actually put the letter T in their date column and hit the tab key, and it figures out today's date. Interesting thing I just discovered playing around looking for similarities between other familiar accounting products that I've used. And of course, here we put the expiry. So I'm going to put a T for today because that just makes it easier to get from there to wherever. Now, Alt and the down arrow key drops me down, so I can now just use my down arrow key to advance forwards in time, and I can go right and left to find the date that I want it to expire. So let's say I just want to give them 1 week. So I'll set it for February 3rd, 2015. It's quote number QU-0003. I can put in a reference. This is fun. I can add in a title and summary. So I can say, oh, the places you'll go. So, of course, you do something hopefully a little more serious than that. And then you put the summary. And again, you would put something more serious and probably more specific to the project that you're giving them a quote on. Moving down the line, over here, we have the items, right? And I've got the description. I had set up this item before. And I've established what account it goes to, the tax rate if applicable. And this would be one of my tracking codes that I've got set up in Xero. And then we have other, which is, I believe, how I've got the second tracking code set up. And that's it. And I can put terms in here. That's easy to do. And then over here on save, it's pretty simple. Save as a draft, save and continue editing, or save and add another. So let's just save it. Let's save it. Okay. And it's saving. And you'll see what happens in a second when it finishes saving. So it lets me know that I've saved. A draft quote has been saved for Ian Vason, totaling $1,500. I can click here to view quote, but notice what happens down here is it brings up all of my draft quotes. And I had done a previous one to Ian as well. So let's send this to him. And you'll see how easy this is. It's just so easy. Of course, with my internet connection being slow, it takes a minute. But that's not Xero's fault. That's AT&T Uverse's fault. So, over down yonder here, I can hit send. I can add a note. I'll hit send. And this is cool. You can really customize the email that goes out. So if I don't like the way they do this, I can say, quote number, and then insert placeholder. So quote number for, get over here, for insert placeholder, I can do customer name. Good until, oops, too many O's, expiry. Right, and I can use the same placeholders here in the body of the email. So it says, hey, Ian, here's quote number, blah, blah, blah. It would have listed the terms had I put any on the quote itself. It looks like they would have shown up here. And I can check off to send me a copy. Always a good idea when there's an option like that to do it, in my opinion, because I like to, A, have the confirmation in case he gets back to me and says, hey, I never got it. I can just easily find it in my email and forward it to him. And it just sort of confirms that I really did send it. And then I click send. And there's another thing I'm going to show you. So it just gives me the sort of screen confirming that I sent him a quote for $1,500, gives me the information. So let's go back up to quotes here. And I want to look at all quotes. And what Xero does, and you might have gathered this already from the screens you've seen so far, is it gives you the opportunity to sort of batch process things having to do with the quotes. So not from all, but if I go to sent, where I have more than one, so you can get the idea, see how I can multi-select, and then I can accept it for him. Let's say he calls me up and says, yeah, I accept the quote, no problem, right? Or I can choose decline, or I can print, or I can delete them. So in a click, and I mentioned this in the write-up, and it's fewer clicks to process this stuff and just move quickly so I can get on to more sort of valuable tasks, if you know what I mean. In other words, I don't want to spend too much time on this kind of stuff. I want to be able to get into it quickly. Look what else I can do. So let's go into a quote. Jumping right in. So let's say I know I'm about to send a quote to another customer, and I know it's substantially the same as the one I just sent to Ian. Well, look what you can do. Copy to. And I can, right here, reuse the contents for a new quote, right? So I can create a draft. And as you can see, I can also turn it into an invoice to a customer. And I can turn it into an invoice for any customer. It's not going to be limited to Ian just because that's who the quote I was using was originally sent to. So as you can see, it defaults that way in case I did want to send him a substantially similar quote. This way I can just go in and edit the information. But maybe now I want to send this one to my friend Dennis Thompson. So it's very easy to maneuver around this data and use it to accomplish future tasks as well as the existing ones quickly, efficiently, and without any friction. And friction is something I talk about a lot when I look at software and how it's used and how much easier or how much not easier in some cases it makes my life. This is going to make your life really easy. If you're using Xero, I strongly suggest you use the quotes. There's other things we talk about in the write-up that I haven't mentioned, such as this is what you're going to do if your intention is to do value pricing. Save yourself the hassles and headaches that go along with hourly billing so that you and your customer are on the same page about what's being charged, what the value of the services are, and this way you can get to work and get busy and get things done and move on to the next thing, make more money, have more fun. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you on the web.